we're going to go over your week 3 packet. This week's work is going to be a little more challenging, but that's okay. We're going to do it together. If you'll pay really close attention to this is stuff that we have done before, but it's been a little while, and this was some of the harder stuff that we did. But don't panic, I got you. On this section right here, we're going to work through 5 of them together, and on the next page we're going to talk about some of them and work 1 of them together. So we're going to do about half of them together, and if you have questions, remember you can send me a message on Google Classroom and I will help you with it specifically. Alright, let's get started. If you'll notice, it says expand each expression and combine like terms if possible. When I think of combine like terms, I think of families. Remember we talked about keeping the families together. Remember we talked about the X family, the Z family, the plain Jane family. That's what combine like terms means. It's the families. We keep families together. Right? Number 1, you notice we have 4 parentheses X minus 2. We also talked about steak dinner. Remember we said that if somebody gets a steak dinner in your house, somebody else wants one too. So we're going to share this steak dinner with everybody in the house. And if you also notice, this 4 is smushed up next to this parentheses. When something is smushed, what do? We multiply. So this is actually called distributing. I'm going to distribute this 4 by multiplying it by everything in the parentheses. And I also have to remember that the sign that's in front goes with the number behind it. So I'm going to say 4 times x gives me 4x, and 4 times negative 2, put it in your calculator, gives me negative 8. So I have 4x minus 8. I have the X family and the plain Jane family. Is there anything else I can do? Can I combine 2 different families? No, I cannot. You know what that means? Mic drop. I'm done. Alright. Number 2, I'm not going to do this one with you. You're on your own on this one. But pay attention to this negative right here. When you multiply that negative by everything in your parentheses, that negative goes with the 3. So you're going to say negative 3 times x. You got this. I know you can do it. Alright, we're going to skip down to number 5. Are we afraid of fractions? Nope. We sure aren't. We're not afraid of fractions. So, first thing I want to do is change this into a decimal. So, in my handy dandy calculator, I'm going to say 1 divided by 4. That gives me 0.25 negative. 0.25 negative. So I'm going to take my 0.25, and I know this is steak dinner. I'm going to distribute it to everything in my parentheses. So 0.25 negative times x gives me negative 0.25 x. And my calculator, I need to use my calculator on this one. 0.25 negative times 16 gives me negative 4. Can I put my X family and my plain Jane family together? No, I cannot. Mic drop. I'm done. On this next one, I notice I have another fraction. What am I going to do? I'm going to change that fraction to a decimal. 1 divided by 5 gives me 0.2, can't forget my negative. And again, just like I did on the others, steak dinner. Multiply 0.2 times negative x 0.2 negative times negative 35. Let's go ahead and do this one together. 0.2 negative times, what do I know is in front of this x? There's an invisible 1 here. Times, but what do I know about this 1? That 1 is negative. So I'm going to multiply by negative 1, and that's going to give me, interesting, that's going to give me a positive 0.2, can't forget his last name, x. So now I'm going to take 0.2 negative times, what do I know about this 35? It's negative, times 35 negative. Oh, interesting. It gives me positive 7. Alright, we're going to do number 7. I've got another fraction right here. First thing I'm going to do, make life easy for myself. Turn that into a decimal. I get 0.6. How am I going to write that? I'm going to use my bar notation. That means it goes on and on forever, repeating the 6. So I'm going to multiply that by everything in here. This is a big family. That whole family gets a steak dinner. So 0.6 times that x that I know has an invisible 1 right there. So I'm going to get 0.6 repeating x. And I'm going to take 0.6, fill up my screen, remember we did this, times 18, so positive 18, and I'm going to get 11.9 repeating, and I'm going to say 0.6 forever and ever and ever and ever times, what's this guy? It's a negative 2 times 2 negative equals, oh, negative 1.3 repeating forever and ever and ever. X. Can't forget his last name. So now, here's what I notice. I've got X family, plain Jane family. What do I need to do? I need to put my families together. Got to put my families together. So I'm going to take 0.6 forever and ever and ever. Remember my signs go together. Minus 1.3 forever and ever and ever. Equals negative 0.6. I'm going to use bar notation to show it goes on and on forever. Can't forget my family name. But what about this guy? Does Plain Jane have anybody to join with? Nope, he sure doesn't. So he stays just like he is. Alright, let's look at number 9. Number 9. I've got a fraction right here. So first thing I'm going to do, make life easy for myself, I'm going to turn that into a decimal, and I get 0.83 repeating. Can't forget his last name is X. But what do I notice out here? This is not inside the parentheses. So when I steak dinner, distribute that, I'm not going to distribute to this. This is outside the parentheses. It's kind of standing off by itself. So I'm going to say negative 12 times 0.83 forever and ever and ever. That gives me negative 9.9 repeating. And then I'm going to say 12 negative times 5 negative equals 60. I made a mistake. Can you find my mistake? I didn't carry his last name. That's super, super, super important. That has to carry the last name. And if you notice, my answer here is positive. And this one right here, I'm just going to bring it down because there's nothing I can do with it. Alright, so here's what I have. I've got X family, plain Jane family. What am I going to do? Keep my families together. So I'm going to say 9.9 forever, never, never. That's negative plus 2. That gives me negative 7.9 forever, never, never. Can't forget my last name. And 60. 60 is plain Jane. There's nobody to join with. So, on these two problems right here, I want to take a second and kind of backtrack and show you something. All year long, we've been talking about converting fractions to decimals. You have only had 4 function calculators this year, not these scientific calculators. Next year in 8th grade, you're going to get these. These will help you convert fractions and decimals back and forth together. When we get an answer like this, with 11.9 repeating forever and ever, if I were to work this out using fractions, that is actually going to become a 12. If I were to round this, I'm going to get a 12. So either answer is completely correct. And in all honesty, that would be negative 2/3 x plus 12. The same thing with this one. This would be negative 8x plus 60. Because if I worked this out without converting this this fraction to a decimal, I would have had to skip. I would have skipped that part and just gotten a whole number of 8. Okay? So next year when we do this and we have these fancy calculators, it'll be a little bit different and we won't have to do quite as much conversion. Alright, next part on the bottom. We have some directions. Determine which expression, if any, are equivalent. Equivalent. Show your work. Equivalent sounds in my head like it starts with equal. So the directions of this one is telling you which one of these 3 are equal. So the directions want you to combine your like terms to simplify and figure out which one of these 3 are equal, which one is the same. So on this one, you're going to expand it all the way down or simplify it. Same here, and 2 of them are going to be the same. And those are going to be your answers. Alright, on your next page, number 11 is going to work the exact same way. You're going to simplify this, and this, and this, and 2 of them are going to come out to be the same. But I want to look at number 12. Number 12 says use 2 different methods to expand. 2 different methods. You know what? We've talked about 2 ways to do this. You absolutely know how to do this. The first way that we've talked about is combining like terms. That is our families. So to do this method first, I'm going to write my original problem. I want to go through here and find my families. I've got X family, and I've got plain Jane family, plain Jane family. And I know that I've got to steak dinner everything in there. But I'm going to combine my like terms first. So I've got 1/4. Because he's being multiplied, I don't combine anything yet. I've got x and 2x. I know there's an invisible 1 right here. So that's going to be 1 plus 2 gives me 3x. And then I'm going to look at my plain Jane family over here. 16 minus 8 is going to give me 8. So, like we did before, let's change that to a decimal. 1 divided by 4 gives me 0.25. And I'm going to distribute that to everything in here. Steak dinner. 0.25 times 3 gives me 0.75x. Can't forget his last name. 0.25 times 8 gives me 2, and it is positive. So this is my first method, and that's where I'm combining my families first. Well, there's something else I can do. My other method is to distribute first. So, in my problem, my original problem, I'm going to convert this to a decimal. 1 divided by 4 is going to give me 0.25. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to distribute. I'm going to multiply. I'm going to steak dinner that to everything in my problem first. 0.25 times x gives me 0.25x. 0.25 times 2 gives me 0.5x. Can't forget his last name. 0.25 times 16 gives me 4. 0.25 times 8 negative. Remember the sign in the front goes with it. That gives me -2. Now, what do I notice? I've got X family, plain Jane family, plain Jane family. So what am I going to do? I'm going to combine my families. 0.25 plus 0.5 gives me 0.75x, can't forget his last name, plus 4 minus 2 is 2. Look what I've got. I have the exact same answer. It doesn't matter which one you do first, you're going to get the same answer. But, do you remember when we started solving equations? We had this guy. Don't call me after midnight. Don't call me after midnight. That stood for distribute, combine, move, add and subtract, and then multiply and divide. Distribute, combine. I like for you to distribute first because when we're solving equations, a lot of times that's going to make sense. This is not an equation. This is an expression. An equation has what in it? Equation has an equal sign. So when we're solving equations with an equal sign, these are the steps that we really need to do in that order. If you have any questions with 1 through 12, send me a message, let me know, and I will help you with those, and I'll make another video to show you the next page.